Hi, I'm Hope. Welcome to Life West. This is our Life West Communications Club podcast, the first one. Yay! And our first guest is Dr. Andy from Radiant Life. Welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
We haven't talked for a while before this or anything.
Right. So we're so happy to have you here.
Awesome.
There's several of us on campus who are very interested in working with the pediatric community, especially with kiddos who struggle with different types of needs and things like that. So you're right up the alley for that.
What are things like that?
Things like that, like ADHD, mental health, autism, stuff like just different challenges that not every kiddo encounters.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think maybe a good way to start is you just kind of telling us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of segue into a communications talk since we're a communications club.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out in life with a lot of challenges. I'll give you the short version right now. You can go on the website to see all of the version. But life was really hard as a kid. And as I grew up, nobody had answers for those challenges. I did a lot of failing in school, got kicked out of college, didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to help people. And so I ended up getting hooked up with a chiropractor who said the most profound thing ever to me. And that was, when your brain cannot communicate through your spinal cord and your nerves to the rest of your body, you have symptoms because organs don't work. And I was just dumbfounded, just like amazed. I just literally like shrunk down, and I was mad and happy at the same time because I had so many struggles and I had so many medications tossed at me. I was called a bad kid, told I didn't care about things, but there was a reason. And so as I started learning about all of that, it started blowing my mind and making my own struggles in life make way more sense. So I became a chiropractor. Actually didn't get help with the sensory processing aspect of things until about 27 years old when I graduated. Dr. Tony Ebel was very good at explaining the basics of that neurophysiology, that sensory overwhelm that makes your brain overwhelmed, and then it doesn't work right. And so that's what got me into chiropractic. But I also didn't remember that I was that kid until maybe 2018, 2019. Actually, 2019 is when I started looking back at my own story and realized I take care of the kids that I was. And I'd been practicing for 5 years at that point.
Yeah, that's neat.
Pretty wild.
So when you graduated, what kind of practice did you go into? Like, how did you get to this part of your story where you're now opening your own practice and this is the scope that you're in?
Oh, man. So I did not know what I wanted to do exactly. I was very unprepared. I moved out to Omaha to help somebody start a practice. I got kicked out of that practice really quickly, right when I had actually run out of the money that I brought to support myself. There's more depth to that story, but that story has some good mends that has happened since then between me and that doc. But I always wanted a pediatric practice. Initially, I thought it was based on the fact, like, I don't want kids to struggle with cancer. But as I realized more and more of the dysfunction that kids with sensory processing issues like ADHD, autism, anxiety, anger, that's oftentimes a sensory processing issue. When I realized they don't really have many options, that's when I was like, that is what I want to do. Give them answers that they can't get anywhere else.
Very cool. And so what got you to take that step to just branch out on your own and like, this is the lane I'm in? Because I think that's one of the other things I learned from you when we talked privately was like, hey, I picked my lane and I'm staying in it and I love it. So kind of how did you get to that part?
Well, the conviction from understanding that kids don't have help and my deepest core, like, I want to help people. And so that was always my lane, and it's just refined over time with different circumstances popping up. But what made me go out on my own, I always wanted to go out on my own, but the piece that made me do it was literally getting kicked out of that office. Like, I got locked out of that office. And it wasn't anything that I specifically did. It was just a hard time for the doctor in the office, from what I understand. And so I was literally in Omaha, Nebraska, 10 hours away from my home, and I don't have friends. I don't know anybody. I mean, I literally called a bunch of doctors that practice a similar technique to what I do and was just frantically trying to figure out what the heck to do. Now, once I figured out, this goes in the communication piece, but once I figured out a place that I could work, I'm very grateful, forever grateful to Dr. Kelly Heinrichs for allowing me to use his space when he wasn't in there. Also use his space and share it when he was in there, until we got too crazy with all the crazy kids and it started like overwhelming everything. But I quickly learned I have no idea how to market. Like, I knew I didn't know, but I didn't know anything. I called my sister. She was, I believe, the number 3 whirlpool salesperson in the nation. And I was like, you have a marketing degree. You're good at this. What do I do? She's like, well, I don't know. What do you mean? To her, it just makes sense. To me, I'm like, it's a foreign language. I know that I can help people. I know there's a massive need for help, and I have no clue. It looked like the Grand Canyon for me. Mm-hmm. So students that are listening to this, maybe docs, a lot of docs that are watching this too, probably understand that Grand Canyon feeling of, I know all these really cool things where I can help people, but I have no clue how to communicate with them. So the very first thing that I ever did was, and this is my sister's idea, she's like, write a letter of what you do, how you can help people, and then go deliver it to daycares or schools. So awesome. I did that. And the first place that I stopped at, oh my gosh, the lady opens the door. She goes, yeah, I'm terrified, like shaking with the letter in my hand. And I was like, I'm Dr. Andy. I'm a pediatric chiropractor and I help kids calm down. She's like, oh, why didn't you say so? Come on in. We talked for like an hour. She was amazing. I don't think she knows this, but I essentially got like my first 3 or 4 patients from talking to her parents. Like, they had a parent meeting for me to be able to communicate. And I got my first couple patients. That goes into the crazy part of the story too. Like, when you don't know how to market or you don't know how to sell and how to really have a good understanding of how you're really helping people, it's not getting sleazy or anything, but it's really helping people. But when you don't know how to do that, you can't eat. And that is what I went through. For a year, I made $7,500 my first year, like gross profit, which means that's the collections that I brought in. Was that I ate a ton of Little Caesars pizza, which is right next to where my house was, that I was renting a room in this house for $300 a month. It was in a nice part of town, blessed. But the house itself, the people in the house were crazy. The other people that rented, there was a point where I needed to move out, and it was after a couple of years of being in practice, and I was at least bringing in more money at that point. But I remember, don't judge me, but I slept with my gun. And this is in a nice part of town. I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen in this house. Like, it is absolutely crazy. I lock my door and just sit in there.
Yeah.
I got stuff stolen out of my room. Oh, it's wild. So, moral of the story, learn how to market and communicate, and learn how to sell and communicate. That's a really big deal.
Yeah, I think that's a neat idea that your sister came up with, right? Like, write a letter. Yeah. So let's talk about this letter. And I'm sure there's been like many reiterations of it since, like, we've evolved to what you built today.
Yep.
What was in the initial letter and what's in your letter now today? Like, what's the difference?
So we actually don't have a letter that we utilize today.
Right, like an analogy.
Because we just go talk to people.
Okay.
I'm so confident now that I just want to have like eye contact, one-on-one communication. I want to hear what needs, struggles they have with their patient population or their customer population that I can help with. Mm-hmm. And then I help them understand where I fit into that process. Okay. If it's not a fit, then it's not a fit. And they know that I'm Dr. Andy and I own Radiant Life, and they will see our social media content because we put social media out all the time. Just to stay at top of mind for people. Mm-hmm. The letter itself, that in that beginning was, like I said earlier, just, this is who I am. And it was very authentic. Like I didn't know how to be anything but authentic at that time because I was literally so raw and alone at that moment. I couldn't have lied if I wanted to. So this is who I am. This is what I do in general. And I have a passion for kids and helping the community. Basically, that's it.
Yeah, very cool. So you've been in front of a lot of different audiences, it sounds like, right? And so do you so I guess you maybe answered that question a little bit, but like, how do you tailor that per audience? Like, are you in front of kids? Are you in front of parents? Are you in front of administrators?
Yeah.
How does that change at all?
Absolutely.
Okay.
My absolute favorite way of communicating, and we don't always get to do exactly what we want, but it's something like this, where I get to have feedback from the audience, because then I can actually find out what they're concerned about. Otherwise, I'm just talking, and I can talk and talk and talk. And I mean, whenever new patients come in, I try not to get too off in the weeds by things they bring up. It's challenging sometimes, but they will bring up the vagus nerve. And I'm like, I could do like a week-long seminar on the vagus nerve, but we don't need to know that much depth. But if you have questions, you can ask. So just keeping them focused on the conversation that we are trying to have at that time is really important. If it's administrators of a place, what do they want? What do they need? If you can get that information ahead of time, you're golden. Really, that's the key, is knowing what they want and then understanding how what you are certain about, what you know, fits into that. And sometimes it's just the fact that you know enough to be able to point them in the right direction, and you can't actually directly help them. Sometimes you literally have all the answers to all their problems. And when you know something and you know their issue, you can bridge that gap really fast. If you don't know, and this is another thing that I would highly encourage students and really docs that are struggling with this to nail down, is what the heck do you know? Like, if I was going to pay you $1 million and I want my money back if I do not get what I am going to be promised, what are you going to promise me? Like, nail that down, and you'll be a great communicator. A lot of the struggle comes from uncertainty, confusion. You know that in school, you learn the amazingness of how the body works and the philosophy of how God made the body, how chiropractic influences it. But then we go out in the world and we try to talk, and we don't know how to communicate because we don't actually know what we're guaranteeing. Right?
Yeah, that, or it's like I can't focus, right? So it's like, I want to tell you all of these things, kind of like what you're talking about, but it's like, but then I'm starting to communicate with you, and then I realize, oh, you are here and my knowledge is here. So how do I get here to meet you where you're at and still be an effective communicator?
Absolutely.
Right. And without that practice, you're kind of, then I get embarrassed.
And nobody likes to go talk to strangers.
Right.
Until they've had to do it or they have practice in doing that. Like, that's one of the best things you can do. I was actually talking to one of your staff members before I came in here and just went and said hi. And I was like, is there a way to make a project for students every single quarter where they have to go talk to 10 or 15 people and give you the responses that they gave?
Okay.
And really, it doesn't even have to be about chiropractic initially, but learning how to talk to people and ask what they want. Like in the case of kids, like we're talking about, I could so easily go out, and I think this would take some of the edge off for students, but go out into Hy-Vee's, Baker's, the mall, whatever, walk up to a parent and say, hey, do you have struggles with parenting? Is it behavior? Does your child have any health struggles? I'm a doctor that's in school right now, and I just would love to connect with the community and understand more. Super easy. Almost all of them are going to say yes. If they say no, just give them a high five and be like, that's awesome. If you ever have any questions, here's my card, something like that. But they will most likely say, yes, parenting is so hard. What's the hardest part about it? And then why is that important to you? Now you literally just bridge that Grand Canyon really fast. and you know what they want.
Correct.
So you don't have to like knowledge bomb them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so that, I'm assuming that's what you utilize in your office, correct? Especially when you're getting in a brand new, like you're bringing family in from a social media or word of mouth recommendation.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you helped my friend's kid. How the heck and Bob are you going to help me? Right. Yep. And so I've been able to see you do that.
Yeah.
But it was very cool. And you just did it so efficiently. And you also took it, not only were you talking to the parent, but you also were talking to that child.
Absolutely.
And the way that you described it, you bridged the gap even between the mom and the son. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me more about that?
Yeah. So one of the questions that you had sent me before coming on here was like, how do you talk with kids? And I'll just jump into that aspect if that works, and then we can angle the question. But talking to kids is just acting like a kid. What do they care about?
Pokemon cards.
All right. Oftentimes it's Pokemon cards, football, things like that. But what they really truly care about is the same thing every human cares about, and that's being heard, seen, and cared for, knowing they're unconditionally loved. In our office, a kid did this one time. Brand new patient. First time mom's ever been in the office. We have a really heavy stool that's about this tall, and this kid just like walks up it and then punches me like a hook, a right hook in the face. His mom can't even talk and is just mortified. I'm very startled, but I'm not mad at the kid. I mean, I'm not going to let him do it again, but I'm not mad at the kid. I'm like, and this is why we're here, right? When you can understand that God made the body to heal and self-regulate, and you understand that every human wants to be heard and wants to be cared for and loved unconditionally, that conversation gets a lot easier. Because anytime somebody is acting out of fear, anger, overwhelm, that's when they do stupid things. And we're going to get Christian for a second on this, but even people that are like murdering people, like they're trying to gain something, right? So when I can see those really intense scenarios and understand how God made us and how Jesus fulfills that, I can look at all these kids and all these parents and address it pretty directly. There's a dad one time. This was hard. I didn't know how to respond immediately. We have a waiting room full of people, and this dad grabs his son, throws him up against the wall, gets in his face, and like yells at him. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, do I do something? Do I not do something? Or I need to watch, like, I'm literally the person responsible for this entire room of people. Like, what do I do? And so I just watched for anything to escalate even remotely beyond that. And then I would have stepped in, but it did not. And so it was a heavy burden on my heart. It was hard to sleep that night. I'm just reeling through, like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And God was like, love him. I was like, okay, let's see what happens. So next time he came in the office, I was like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? Come on in here. And so this dad came in the room. We closed the door. I was like, you realize your son is so blessed to have you as a dad. Like, he's struggling with so many things right now, and people that don't want to be around him. He's having a hard time socially at school, but you're there for him and doing your best to help him. He just started crying. And I was like, cool, that worked out. And then that dad never had another explosion. And we had like 3 more months of care, regular care. And that dad never had an explosion again. So again, going back to communicating to those basic needs that every parent has, because there's hard stuff. We've had a dad that's like, I don't even like my kid.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to not like his kid, but they just headbutt so hard that it was really hard for him. So being able to bridge that gap is huge.
Really. And you've brought staff into your office. You have multiple CAs. You've got another doc in the office, maybe more now. How do you make sure that like what you're communicating is all in line with that?
Yeah. Well, that's a challenge, and we are navigating that challenge currently. We just had to let another person go, which is like the thing that I hate doing the most. So I want to give everybody an opportunity, but I'm coming to terms with the fact like I can't make everybody grow to that potential. And so we just have standards. And in the very beginning of hiring them, we're like, hey, this is the standard as clear as we understand it. Sometimes it's not clear, but as clear as we understand it, this is the standard. You live up to that, or else this isn't a good place for you to work. And I actually love you a lot still, but the working scenario here is not working. And when that does not go well, yelling ensues, which is extremely rare. So when I yell, people know there's something up. Even my wife will tell you that. Like, I just don't really get that mad. So it's just culture, figuring out the culture. What does that mean? Know what you know that you know, right? Nail that down, know what the people need, and find the people who can fit in those specific roles and understand both of those pieces as well.
Yeah, because your culture is communication as well.
Yes. And they have a way of communicating that I don't. And I have a way of communicating that they don't, because as we saw earlier on the background, my story is there. Most people don't have the story that I have or a similar story that I have, but they have a different one. A lot of our staff, they were patients first. So their kids went through it and they saw the change in their kids and themselves, but majorly in their kids.
Cool. Well, thank you. I think I know our time is up, and I know we could probably have part 2, part 3, part 10. So I appreciate it, and I hope to have you back someday, and I really appreciate your time. And we love that you're the very first guest.
Awesome.
So thank you so much.
You can find anything for me at radiantlifeomaha.com. You can also search Radiant Life Omaha on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram. So if anybody has questions, feel free to reach out anytime.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much.
Awesome.